welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone is having an amazing day. We finally made it. It's Friday, March 17th, and today is St. Patrick's Day. It's also National Corned Beef and Cabbage Day, so I guess we know what Gretchen is making for supper. Thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can use that fancy little QR code right there in the top portion of your screen to find out where we live everywhere on the internet. We also want to remind everybody that on the stories, if you have comments on them, make sure you head over to our website and make sure you drop some of those comments on our website as well. We're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you are joining us in Clubhouse, you can also comment on the story most recently presented if you have some brief comment in regards to that. But without further ado, we're going to get this day started off. That's right, the dad way. Oh, yeah, because we have the dope dad himself. That's right, Rico Lamitte, who just loves to sip tea on Fridays because he thinks he's been able to outsmart the internet gangbangers in the hood. That's right, because he's found a place. He's going to be moving, and he's actually going to get some fiber in his diet. That's right. It is the dope dad himself, Rico Lamitte.
Oh, man. Thank you, Jason. It's a beautiful Friday morning. It is St. Patrick's Day, and I got my green camos on. I'll show you guys a little bit later. But today, I'm going to talk about banking. It's been a long week of ups and downs for the American banking system, and several issues were debated as to what the proper direction forward would be at yesterday's Senate Finance Committee hearing. The fact crypto investors were responsible for 20% of the withdrawals that tanked New York's Signature Bank last Sunday prompted Colorado Democrat Michael Bennet to question Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen as to why a maturing, more stable, over-regulated cannabis industry still has no access to banking and financial services. Yellen's response is something the regulators have been looking for solutions to. In the case of marijuana, it is against federal law, and that's a barrier, unfortunately, to appropriate banking services for the industry. The Treasury Secretary's remarks on legalization being the problem echo those of bipartisan House of Representatives cannabis panel last week at the most recent South by Southwest conference in Austin, Texas. South Carolina Republican Nancy Mace and Colorado Democrat Earl Blumenauer were featured panelists. And while their opinions differed as to whether legalization could or would happen in the near future, both agreed it was the only path forward. Mace said that she doesn't have much hope legalization will happen this year, though she did say if it does, it would need to be done before June. After June, the focus will be on the presidential election, which could delay legalization for another 2 years. Blumenauer claimed to be more optimistic now, rather than 8 months ago, before taking shots at fellow Dems in the Senate, Chuck Schumer and Cory Booker, for not being able to bring a vote on measures passed multiple times by the House. He said that their desire for perfect legislation resulted in nothing getting accomplished. Well, there you have it, folks. Once again, the U.S. government bails out and or supports the bailing out of banks and wealthy depositors. And it's okay for said depositors to have their own regulated and unregulated assets in said institutions, as long as it's not weed. Love to hear your thoughts on this one. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News.
Interesting story, Rico, because Natalie Fertag, who is a journalist for Politico, she tweeted out this morning, new from me today in Morning Cannabis, senators were hoping to introduce the new safe banking bill before Easter break, but that has been pushed back by the Silicon Valley bank crisis, which is expected to take up time on the Senate Banking Committee. So basically, this is taking all the air out of the room.
Well, you just fill it with smoke. It's more of the same shit, man. Like I said in my story on Monday, we need to decentralize the system, man. Got to decentralize this system. It's going to be more of the same shit over and over and over again. The ultra wealthy and the banks will always get bailed out.
Rico, I still fail to see how you think the banks are being bailed out. Please tell me.
They're setting.
They're paying off. There aren't more runs on the banks, and all the banks still go insolvent because
money is coming from the banks. It's not taxpayer dollars.
It technically is taxpayer dollars because it's from the last big bailout.
It's not.
Why did Joe Biden get on TV saying?
Because he doesn't want there to be a run on other banks. That's the reason he's trying to keep money.
That's not his problem.
It is.
These are private institutions.
If the American economy collapses, that's a problem for the president. What, are you out of your mind?
Let the banks fail. Right. The private institutions.
Once again, highlights the difference. This highlights the difference between capitalism and the free market.
Yes, it's not a free market.
Capitalists are always protected, and the individuals are basically flushed down the toilet. It's like when the pandemic happened, with the first week they gave $1 trillion to Wall Street and the corporations, and then the whole talk in the Senate and the Congress was like, "Man, we can't even find $1,000 for average Americans, dude. I don't know, we can't even find it, dude. Can't even find it. Yeah, we gave $1 trillion to the guys who have all the money already, but for you, Rico St. Germain, can't find it, dude. Sorry."
Nah, man, we don't know what happened and how many people got arrested, how many people went to jail for the 2008 crash.
We're not talking about 2008.
This is
what we are.
This is the same shit.
It's not
different
the
toilet.
same shit.
Same different year.
It's completely different.
Same shit, different toilet.
For y'all to think it's the same shit, y'all are out of your damn mind.
Why are they bypassing FDIC insurance and giving these motherfuckers back their money? If you had over $250,000 or if you were double insured over $500,000 in the bank, that's your fucking problem.
I'm
period.
Well aware it's your problem. However, they are trying to keep the banking system from collapsing by using a fund that is funded by the banks.
Let Gretchen finish.
I just love how we love to throw around bullshit like we know what we're talking about. That's not
how
bullshit? It's working. It is not. It's not at all like the bailout from 2008.
I didn't say it's like the bailout from 2008.
Hello, Mr. Same shit, different toilet. Yes, you are.
Yes, it's a very different situation, and it's a very different situation. And who's getting bailed out? The ultra wealthy and the banks.
All right. Okay.
Banks are bailing banks out. Why? Because they benefited from not getting fucked up. They're not getting fucked up like they should have back in 2007, 2008, when I was in the fucking financial institutions, and I saw that shit firsthand. It happened with Obama. Now it's happening with fucking Joe Biden.
What are you talking
Same
about?
Shit,
what are you talking
toilet.
about? What are you talking
Same
about?
Shit, different
2008 collapsed because of years
themselves.
and years of bad regulation, allowing people to do mortgages they couldn't afford. The banks just setting shit up to just completely implode. That's what 2008 is. This are idiot crypto people who are just emptying banks, and investors are getting scared, and so now they're running for the hills. It was the other. So hold on, Rico. Let me finish. What was the bank this morning they were talking about? It's a different one this morning.
Oh, it's on the East Coast. It starts with an R.
Something like, I think it's Republic. I don't remember.
Yeah, Republic. There we go.
But this bank, the banks all banded together and said, we will give you $30 billion to keep your investors from running away, because people do not want the banks to fail. I know you want them to fail, but I don't think we should go into another depression.
I didn't say I want
because
them
you
to
think
fail.
the banks should
I never
just all
said that.
fail.
Don't put fucking words in my mouth. I never said
yes,
the banks.
You said
I never said I want them to fail. I said let them fail.
Me?
Let them fail, and me wanting them to fail is two different things.
You were the king of the flip flop. Oh my god!
How was that flip flop?
Yeah, that is some big flip flops, bro.
You gotta let me fucking finish. Right here. I never said I want them to fail. I said they should fail. The system is capitalism, right? Let them fail. And the reason why Chase Bank and all JP Morgan Chase and all these people had the money to bail out their bank brothers is because they never fucking were able to fail in 2008. They should have fucking crashed and they should have gone down in 2008. We shouldn't be in this position that we are right now. And Dodd-Frank should not have been rolled back by fucking Trump either. Period.
Oh boy, here we go. Here we go.
What?
I'm not saying I do not disagree
fish
with
rots
you
from the
there.
head.
Trump set this up to be the shit show it is right now. However, on your
Everyone always
2008,
wants to
let him
blame
fail,
Trump.
don't let him fail, tomato, you love to play semantics. That's
No.
Everyone just
me
loves to
saying
blame
let
Trump
them
for
fail
everything.
and me saying I
Everything
want them
Joe
to fail
Biden
is
does,
two
they love to blame
very
Trump.
different things.
I
It's two
agree.
very different things. I don't want anybody to fail, but if you are playing the fucking game and you don't have the fucking right moves to fucking get in the end zone, you're gonna fucking fail. You're gonna fucking lose. Period.
Don't
Let them lose.
Rico, don't you call yourself an anarchist? Wouldn't
Either
that
that or-
be a
Let
reason
them
that
lose.
you want
Either that, or
them
I'm
to
gonna start
fail?
spending all my money on weed, and the government needs to bail me out, dude. I spent my rent money on weed, you guys. Can I get a bailout, please?
Right.
Can we go back to the point of the story? The point of the story is that SAFE is being pushed back because
Yes.
they have to deal with the banks.
Can the hood get
It's a-
$30 billion from JP Morgan Chase?
What? Can the
No,
hood-
no. But California is talking about giving $360,000 to everybody in the hood.
What's that?
I said
Reparations? Let it happen.
Yeah.
California is talking about giving everybody in the hood.
Motherfuckers are bailing out these rich white people. Why don't you bail
Yeah.
out us?
Word.
DC has offered to do reparations in their latest bill, which good old Joe Biden won't let them take autonomy of their fucking budget to do what they want. So
The
there's
system
another
is
failure by the Biden administration.
at
Anyway,
that. Who sees
the
stepping in
point
your way?
is,
Safe ain't happening. Yes. Cannabis saves the world.
well, the
Safe
other
ain't
point is
ain't
that
happening.
cannabis has
Everybody
always
can agree
taken a
on that.
backseat. If we want cannabis to move up on the agenda of Congress, we have to make it happen. We cannot just sit back and continue to ignore it and be like, oh, it'll get to it when they get to, or we're going to cry, woe is me, Big Pharma has more money. I don't give a fuck. If you show up on Capitol Hill and voice your complaints in person, lots of people, and I'm not talking no January 6th stuff, we need to show them that cannabis means business and that we should be taken seriously, that banking is a need for this industry, regardless of how you think it should be implemented, Rico, because I know you hate SAFE, but banking would be a good thing for this industry and a necessary first step.
I hated the original Safe. Safe Plus? I'm okay with. I'm okay. I'm okay with
Well,
it.
fantastic.
it.
I'm glad you're good with
We're
that.
all worried about what you think about it.
Yep.
Having no licenses or no nothing.
Freedom market, man. Freedom market.
I bet.
We want to subscribe to the same fucking system that keeps on fucking us over.
Yeah, we got to go to a commercial. We're gonna be right back.
Let's do it.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
Up next, it is West Hollywood's right-leaning president of cannabis tourism and the industry's longest continuously operating retailer, known to many for smoking the best weed in the world and to some for keeping Matt Gaetz' name off this national sex offender registry. Y'all know who it is, Jason Beck.
I mean, you know what it is. No victim, no case, Rico. You know exactly well that works out.
Oh my God.
Lord Almighty.
Mm-hmm. That's right. You know what it is too, Gretchen. But you know, I'm going to save it for your intro coming up next after this. But today, my headline has some spice coming out of New York. Hope you guys are ready, because a group of licensed medical cannabis operators filed suit against a New York regulator for failing to open licensing to all applicants at the same time. A coalition of licensed medical cannabis operators has filed a lawsuit against the New York cannabis regulator, alleging it overstepped its authority and subverted the intent of the state legislature by failing to comply with provisions of the 2021 Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, the MRTA. The Cannabis Control Board and Office of Cannabis Management established policies that undermine the MRTA's laudable social equity goals and hinder licensed operators from entering the market. These policies have delayed the ability of safe regulated cannabis products for medical patients and adult use consumers in the New York State. The Coalition for Access to Regulated and Safe Cannabis said in a statement, the group argues that the MRTA required that the OCM and CCB open the initial adult use retail dispensary license application period to all candidates at the same time. But instead, they create a program called the Conditional Adult Use Retail Dispensary, aka CURD, CAURD program, that effectively created a new license class and allowed that group access before others. The CURD program was announced late March with the intention of granting the first licenses to individuals who had prior cannabis-related convictions that occurred in New York State. But some applicants have challenged the program, arguing it conflicts with the U.S. Dormant Commerce Clause, which blocks states from discriminating against interstate commerce. Well, we have a fight going on here in New York. I'm excited. Man, I have a few comments, but I want to see what you guys have to say. This is Jason Beck reporting for the High at 9 News Hour. What do y'all think?
You knew it was coming. You knew this shit was coming.
You're on mute, Rico.
No, I heard him.
You knew this shit was coming.
Oh shit, my bad. Hold on.
Everybody else hear me?
Yes, Rico, loud and clear.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, this has happened everywhere else, so I don't know why they thought New York was going to get away with this. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have tried to do what they do, but you knew it was coming.
100% you knew this was coming. I'm surprised it took them so long to write all the paperwork and file the documents.
Right.
You know? Yeah, New York is just a big shit show. I mean, it's just so bad on so many levels. I don't know how they're ever going to clean all of this up or what they're actually going to do to right these wrongs. And what do you think will ultimately be the outcome of this type of legislation, Gretchen?
What do I look like?
I was just wondering if you have a prediction. I know I have a prediction
on all things.
Yeah.
What would be lovely is for this to move up the chain and go to the Supreme Court and actually have someone weigh in on this. But I think they're going to come back and they're going to say that setting aside based on whatever stipulations they try to consider social equity is going to be considered unconstitutional.
Yep.
So is that going to have lasting ramifications in other states that try to enact social equity programs as well?
This has happened in other states.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, I could see this happening and trickling to a whole bunch of other states where a whole bunch of other states have to rewrite their whole social equity program just because of this type of lawsuit.
Well, I can't think of other states, Jason, unless you can inform me. Other states where they put social equity at the top of the list and saying social equity was going first before everyone else. I don't recall that ever happening.
Fair.
But this goes back to the story that I covered way back in October when I said that the dormant commerce clause was going to end up going to the Supreme Court, and it's going to nullify social equity across the board. Period.
Well, it hasn't gone that far yet.
It will go that far, and social equity will have to be sanctioned by federal government. Period. Everything else is gonna fucking fail.
We'll see. I don't know if the court's gonna want to weigh in. Frankly, I mean, it might be nice, but
I think they're gonna have to because there's precedent.
They don't have to do jack. Are you kidding me? They see like
precedent
5% of the cases that come before them.
That part's true.
Yeah.
Just because it goes up the ladder doesn't mean they have to hear it.
Mark my words. What is today? March 17th. I'm saying it's going to the Supreme Court, and social equity will be deemed unconstitutional, and it will fall.
Okay, well, I will be old and gray before that happens, Rico Lamitte.
I mean, but if they say that social equity would be unconstitutional, couldn't one argue that reparations would be unconstitutional as well?
No, because it was promised to us.
By who?
40 acres never was given to anybody of color after.
Okay, well,
slavery.
Not that I'm defending our wonderful, horrible government, but see how that argument worked for all the Native American
Exactly. Yep. Good
luck
luck
with that.
Exactly. Good luck with that.
Well,
we shall see. I think this might slow down the rollout of New York. I know that they have had some other lawsuits going on prior to this, having to deal with their medical market. We'll see. I don't know. We shall see.
But isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy how pissed off people get when their licenses get on hold?
Well, some might be able
on the
to.
other foot. This is like the opposite of what happened in California. However, the same fucking result. The trap always.
Yeah, but you guys get all pissy when you look at the New York market and they only have 4 dispensaries open when they could be allowing adult use in these already established facilities. The folks that are the folks that are in this coalition are all of the operators now who have medical licenses in the state and aren't allowed to operate in the adult use market. Maybe the rollout would be going a little better if they could get into the places where things are already up and running. But it's like, what do you want? You want social equity or you want a failing market?
If they did, Gretchen, they would have more than a dozen stores open in the state of New York at this point.
They would have a lot more than a dozen stores, Jason Beck.
They would have more than a dozen. That's all that.
But I totally understand the idea that it's, this gives social equity applicants a better foothold and a chance to move up in the world. I get it.
I'm just confused as to who was pissy about that. Nobody's pissy over here. We called it out.
I do recall y'all being pissy about this a couple days ago when I did the story.
Rewind the tape.
Rewind the tape. Let's go back to Wednesday, I believe it was, when I did the Forbes article that called out the New York market for sucking because they went ahead with just social equity, which was the reason they only have 4 licensed dispensaries in the entire state.
I was going to say, we know it wasn't yesterday.
I personally was not pissed.
It was on Wednesday
about it. I was just saying, we called that shit. And I said, Governor Hochul said that 20 retail operations will be opened month to month. And that has not happened.
Well, that's fantastic. I forget how many it is. 68, 67 licenses have been issued. We're waiting for them to get their shit together.
Yep. Still waiting.
Yeah, they have had how many photo ops? And Kathy Hochul still has not.
Why is it on the governor to get these businesses up and running?
Well, because she's the one that's doing all the.
They issued the licenses. Open your doors.
Mm-hmm.
Open your mind.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy!
I mean, it just drives me nuts. Everybody, you want the government to stay out of it, but then you want the government to help you open up. Take your pick.
I just want them to hold themselves accountable. That never happens.
How are they not holding themselves accountable? They've issued the licenses. It's their job now to open the stores. It's their job to hold everybody's hand. It's their job to give them money to function. Are you kidding me? This is why this industry doesn't fucking work.
I want to see Kathy Hochul go and buy some weed in one of these stores.
Yeah, or at least buy a grinder.
Yeah, something.
The New York market totally works and is crushing. The only thing that doesn't work is a regulated market. But like, if you need good weed,
Mathieu St.
if you need good weed, you can get it delivered. You can get it on the street corner. You can get it at the bodegas. Mm-hmm. The thing that's happening is the government is completely inefficient and is just trying to harvest all of the money and making the industry completely unworkable. So people, what people just constantly are spacing is like folks like myself and my friends. We've been doing this for decades and hiding and surviving and thriving and do it well when it was motherfuckers on both sides, either cops or robbers with machine guns at our head. So you make the penalty a guy with a clipboard that's talking about possibly fining somebody. It's not really that scary. And the folks here who can't put together $5 million because they don't have the lucky friend with the checkbook who's, dad made them an entrepreneur, they're doing fine. They're making quality flower. They're making quality hash. They're going on vacation to Hawaii. I know because I watch them on Instagram. They're able to pay for their health insurance.
They're able to go to Cannabis.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's like people get so hung up on needing permission to do things. And if you're not lying, cheating, stealing, hurting another person, or throwing trash on the ground, you sleep a little bit every week. Do what you're going to do. Stop waiting for permission. It's a plant, y'all.
Hell yeah, man. Big ups to those comments. Mr. St. Germain.
Well,
we're going to keep this party rolling.
Yeah, we're going to keep it rolling. Coming up next, that's right, we have our very own little redheaded Washington insider, Gretchen Gailey, who happens to be back after a long escapade with none other than Sean Kernan, one of our favorite veterans with Weed for Warriors, and she happens to be wearing his hoodie today. So I'm really anxious, Gretchen. Can you tell us about your date yesterday with Mr. Sean Kernan and Weed for Warriors.
Sean and I went to a wonderful event at the British Embassy about uniting us, about using artwork to help veterans deal with their medical issues and their reentry into the space. And it was very nice to see the Brits and the Americans coming together, Jason, after we kicked their asses twice.
Oh yeah,
My ancestors did that.
Yeah,
twice. America. Anyway.
Yeah.
My pow, yada, yada. My headline is coming from, in honor of Mr. Kiernan, my headline is coming from the Associated Press.
Wow. He did a number on you.
We had a lovely time. Sean is a lovely gentleman. He even put on a jacket for me the other night to go to dinner.
Amazing. I bet Nick is probably just enraged right now.
No.
Anyways,
over there.
The headline is Kentucky Senate passes bill to legalize medical marijuana. Woohoo! The Kentucky Senate voted Thursday to legalize medical marijuana in the state, delivering a breakthrough endorsement after years of resisting access to cannabis for people suffering from a series of debilitating illnesses. The measure was passed by the Senate on a 26-11 vote, sending it to the House, which has supported medical cannabis measures in the past. Republicans have supermajorities in both chambers. This is one of those issues where you take out the ledger and you list the pros and cons, said Republican Senate Stephen West, the bill's lead sponsor. And it's a long list on both sides. But for me personally, the pros outweigh the cons. Republican Senator Gary Boswell opposed the bill, referring to cannabis as a drug, not a medicine. He said the qualifying medical categories listed in the measure are too broad. The dramatic vote came before lawmakers started an extended break to give Governor Andy Beshear time to consider signing or vetoing the stacks of bills sent to him. The House can take up the medical marijuana proposal in late March when lawmakers will reconvene for the final 2 days of this year's legislative session. I could go on and on, but basically the gist is, I know you guys like long story short. Kentucky Senate passed legal cannabis. Jason Beck's going to owe me another $100 quite soon. This is Gretchen for Hyatt 9 News.
Jason is going to owe you another $100.
Yes, sir.
Big shout out.
I don't even remember that bet.
What?
What? Nothing.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Kentucky, though.
Yay, Kentucky.
Do we expect him to sign this bill?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Bashir's going to sign it. Yeah. Is it going to get out of the House, or how is the House going to change it or amend it?
Manipulate
we're already hearing the one Republican saying that they have too many ailments that are being covered. So we'll see what they do to it. But I think there's too much support, frankly, for cannabis in Kentucky right now to not pass. That's me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a win. It's a win.
So if this passes by March, into March, you're going to see medical legal cannabis in Kentucky by April.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
Hold on. You're going to see legal medical cannabis for sale by April.
Well, it's probably going to be some wonderful booth indoor weed like Sean Kiernan gave me to smoke from yours. Truly.
Shucks.
That was terrible. Didn't get me high, didn't do jack.
So full of
nothing, Jason Beck. I was like, this is weed?
You are so full of
a waste of my lungs.
You know what? You guys FaceTime me, okay? And I saw your eyes were matching the color of your hair.
Oh, please.
Yeah. You're just taking into the propaganda of Washington, D.C.
Sean Kiernan can attest to I smoked. Nothing happened.
The eyes match the curtains. The eyes match the curtains.
The eyes match the hair.
I need the outdoor. Don't give me that indoor booth, Jason.
Outdoor
trash.
Booth.
All trash.
Oh. We need to reacclimate your palate. Right. Need to get recalibrated.
Yes, she does.
Mm-hmm.
I got nothing. Move along. Let's keep this show rolling. Dr. Talleyrand looks like he's got some good stuff to say.
Yeah, Dr. Talleyrand, do you have anything on this?
No, congratulations, Kentuckians. Hopefully this goes through. That's all I have to say about that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna go to a commercial. We're gonna be right back.
Keeping up to date on the evolving policies of relevant state, local, and federal governments is key to success. When the future of your business is at stake, you need representation as dedicated as you are. With a maze of laws and regulations surrounding cannabis, hemp, and psychedelics, knowing where to begin can be a challenge. Good Thing the Law Offices of Omar Figueroa features a skilled, highly focused team ready to guide you through it all. they're accepting new clients in California and New York. So make sure you check them out at info@omarfigueroa.com. The thoughts, opinions, and shade thrown at High 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in any country, area, or territory, or any of its authorities. The views expressed in this room do not establish any fiduciary responsibility or relationship. Our sponsors do not imply or constitute any endorsement by us or the expression of any opinion whatsoever on the part of any speaker on stage. If you are an easily offended person, call Gretchen Gailey.
If you want to grow some of the best weed in the world, then you must start with the best genetics in the world. Go to www.dnagenetics.shop to order regular, feminized, or autoflower beans. All of your favorite DNA genetics cultivars such as Kosher Kush, Skywalker Kush, and oh yeah, Chocolate Truffle Shuffle. Boasting more cannabis awards for their award-winning genetics than any other company in the world. Remember to go to www.dnagenetics.shop to see why our terps don't lie. Yes, and please remember that if you do have comments on today's stories, make sure you head over to highat9news.com and share them there. But coming up next, this doctor has been around so long that he probably wrote your parents' medical cannabis recommendation. This doctor has had more patients than liberals waiting in line at a President Biden book signing. He's the founder of Medican and co-founder of CESC, the nonprofit cannabis research organization. That's right, is none other than the Dr. Jean Talleyrand.
Thanks, Jason. Happy Friday, everyone. So my headline today is, when will Medicare cover medical marijuana? By Kate Ashford from AP News. So first of all, I'm not a fan of the word marijuana. The article uses it almost exclusively. So as I read you this story, I'm going to use the word cannabis, if you don't mind. Many older adults are using medical cannabis to treat a variety of conditions, but experts say that conflicting laws, unclear safety standards, and complicated rulemaking processes mean it could be years before Medicare may cover the drug. 1 in 5 Medicare recipients currently uses medical cannabis, according to an April 2022 poll by the Medicare Plans Patient Resource Center, and nearly a quarter have used it in the past. 2/3 of Medicare recipients think Medicare should cover it, the poll found. But Medicare doesn't cover medical cannabis because it's not federally legal and not approved by the FDA. Here's where the situation stands. In one analysis of data from a large cannabis dispensary in New York, 60% of patients were 50 years old or older. The patients used cannabis for severe or chronic pain, cancer, Parkinson's disease, and neuropathy, among other things. And cannabis isn't cheap. Patients might pay as much as $5 per dose for edible products or $5 to $10 per gram of flower. Even in states where medical cannabis can be legally prescribed, patients might not be able to afford the prescription. The medicine is so expensive, says Debbie Chagai, Executive Director of Americans for Safe Access. There are some states now where insurance will cover the cost of the doctor visit or the cost of the cannabis card, but no insurance will cover the cost of the actual products. 2 significant issues stand between medical cannabis and Medicare coverage. The first is that government classifies cannabis as Schedule I drug. And the second issue is that Medicare requires that the FDA approve a covered drug as safe and effective. Although the FDA has approved 1 cannabis-derived drug product and 3 synthetic cannabis-related drug products for prescription use, the agency hasn't approved the marketing of cannabis for medical treatment. Could private insurers, companies that offer Medicare Advantage, for instance, decide to cover it? Not likely, says Kyle Yeager, a cannabis policy reporter and senior editor of Marijuana Moment. Like banking institutions that have hesitated to cover services to cannabis businesses, Major health insurance will likely decline to cover cannabis as long as it remains a Schedule I drug under federal law. Among other things, the marketplace needs more data on the medicinal use of cannabis. Insurers need data to show that the outcomes from cannabis care are equivalent to, if not better than, existing options that they do cover, says Dr. Benjamin Kaplan. The free market dispensary system in which patients are free to buy any product. The system has to be tweaked, Kaplan says. Patients can't just have carte blanche to buy whatever they want, and the insurance companies are on the hook to cover that. Considering the breadth of legal and regulatory obstacles facing the process, plus an overhaul of the dispensary system, the road to cannabis coverage is lengthy, says Yeager. I'd say we are many years from having that conversation and rulemaking for something like Medicare. So what do you think? Will Medicare start paying for cannabis? This is Dr. Jean Talleyrand for High 9 News.
It should.
It definitely should.
It should, but that's years off, unfortunately.
Yeah. Dr. Talleyrand,
more
do you think you'll see that?
optimistic.
You think you'll see it in your lifetime, Dr. T?
Yeah, I do. I see patients, and Medicare covers my opinion when I see patients. So that part is a start. But, this is a business, right? And whether you call it a drug or a behavior, which is what I call it, if the behavior is saving the insurance companies money, and we're proving that it's saving money by reducing the cost for pharmaceuticals, and patients are benefiting from it, then maybe this behavior can be covered, right? So that's the way I see it.
Dr. Talleyrand, what is how do they cover any other alternative treatments? Would you say?
No, not
at all.
Yeah, alternative treatments, although I'm a big fan of them, we need data. And, people who are doing alternative treatments are not really supported with the research. So that's part of the problem, is that we need to back data. Acupuncture is covered. Some chiropractors covered, if you consider that alternative. But they have data behind it. And I think we could easily get data behind cannabis. I mean, it's there.
What reschedule?
Well, what would we need to do to actually get some real data to move towards this? Do you think would be like the first step, Dr. T?
What I would do is simply gather all the patients that are using cannabis, demonstrate how many prescription medicines they're using, and compare them to people who are not using cannabis, and just really show them the money, show them what the difference cost is. And by them, I mean the insurance companies. Mm-hmm. I think that the private insurance companies are going to go for it first, but eventually Medicare is going to see that they're saving money. And so I am more optimistic. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I didn't think we'd be where we are. And we've made a lot of progress, although I thought it'd be faster after it got going. So I am optimistic, but I think there's a way, and they're sort of outlining the way.
Interesting. I have a question for you, Dr. Talleyrand. On the research side, when they want more research, does it have to be new research that's conducted by them? Can we use things from other countries? Does it have to be, do they have certain parameters they're looking for?
I love what the UK is doing. They're doing a lot of, with their registry, they're doing a lot of observational study and, real world evidence is what I like to call it. And I know a lot of people, especially the pharmaceutical company, are calling for double-blind, randomly controlled trials. But first, observational study to say, hey, people are using cannabis and doing better with it, not spending money on pharmaceuticals, better outcomes. So there's something to this. Let's investigate further. That's what I would do. And that's what the UK is doing. So I'd say we should follow the lead.
Would the FDA accept something from the UK? That's my question.
Well,
or does it have to be American?
No, FDA won't accept anything from the UK. And also the FDA is problematic. I mean, they're sort of the safety police, right? They're looking to see if things are safe.
No fun zone.
Yeah, and they've got a very limited way of looking at things, molecule by molecule, as Jason likes to say it.
Yes.
And so they're a troubling agency to rely on to get this through, unless they create a separate track for cannabis, which they've kind of talked about.
Yeah, maps.org just had their clinical study, their phase 2 clinical study on veterans with PTSD and cannabis put on clinical hold by the FDA, and it's been on hold for 8-9 months or more. So maps.org is doing some really good work. One way to support is to, call your senator, call your congressman, talk to them about the FDA just releasing the hold on this trial. The phase 1 trial went really well, but phase 1 is just more investigatory. But everybody wants this thing to go forward. So get involved, get active, call somebody.
Dr.
T, trying to make it happen.
Dr. T, did you say a separate track or a separate trap?
No.
Oh, good Lord.
By the way, MAPS is a great organization, but what I tell MAPS is stop trying to go down a path that is really built not to work. I'd say jump to phase 4, do phase 4 trial, do market surveillance, and show the FDA that and see what they say.
Interesting. We do have also too. We have Mark, Pop Brothers in Law, joining us in Clubhouse. Mark, do you have something to say on this?
Never gonna happen.
Never gonna happen, huh?
I'm sorry, but I've said this before. In 1996, when I became an attorney, and Prop 215 hit California, and everybody 5 years before federal legalization. Yay, 5 years. And then what was it? 2012, and then Colorado does adult use before California. Hey, 5 years, adult, it's going to be federal, 5 years. Never. Tell me something that's going to be different and why I should believe that this is finally going to happen in my lifetime.
Well, Matt, the law may not happen absolutely, but de facto, there are 37 states where people can access medical cannabis. So de facto, people are accessing this product now where they couldn't before. So I think that's progress in some ways. Maybe the law is going to take forever to get there, but as long as people are not having to are able to get their cannabis, and also getting maybe the private insurance companies to pay for it without FDA approval, call it a behavior. That's what I say.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I definitely want that access for everybody, but it also kind of makes my point. 36 of the states, what the hell? Why aren't we at federal? And we already know there's, if you count CBD and other things, there's other states that are allowing it to happen all across the country, but yet still no federal legalization because those in power, those in office are not listening to their constituents. They don't care. They care about their own interests. And so that's why until we get a new breed of people in those positions, then we'll see change. Until then, I just don't see it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we've got to find other ways around it. So hopefully we can put our heads together and get there for the sake of the patient, at least, huh?
Absolutely.
Most definitely. Most definitely. We got to go to a quick commercial. We're going to be right back. You with us, Rico?
Oh yeah. Hold up. Up next, he is a immortal cannabis wizard who's seen it all, and it's the reason he's never scared to call out the oligarchical system and systemic injustices that have harmed us all. With over 3 decades of an industry experience behind him, he's now co-host of the What's Good podcast, and tuning in from an unknown dimension, you know who it is, Mathieu St. Germain.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Oh, there we go. That's so much better. Thanks, all. Thanks, Rico. Happy Friday. I've got a great story. I think it comes out of High Times, and it's that there's a new bill being introduced that would target inflated THC levels and price gouging. There's been enormous pressure to inflate THC levels. This has fallen upon cultivators, manufacturers, and labs. And when THC levels are inflated, it would create unrealistic expectations for higher numbers, and it erodes trust in the integrity of the industry. One California lawmaker has a solution. On March 15th, Assemblyman Reggie Jones Sawyer, a Democrat, introduced Assembly Bill 1610 in California, which he calls Weed Out the Weed Bill. This will create greater transparency in cannabis testing and hopefully help eliminate fraud in the legal markets. He says, as consumers, we all want to know what we purchase is safe, legal, and tested. That is why I introduced AB 1610. As the cannabis industry continues to grow in California, my bill will help protect consumers and maintain high-quality cannabis products. The testing company SE Labs is sponsoring AB 1610 because it would improve transparency in the market by allowing or requiring in-person lab audits, randomized product shelf testing to ensure cannabis labels are accurate, and blind proficiency testing of labs. SC Labs is supporting this bill because without greater engagement from the state, there is no way to hold bad actors accountable, says SC Labs Chief Compliance Officer Josh Wertzer. Under the current system, bad actor labs and brands profit over companies that are working hard to follow the rules. Wertzer continued, we want the legalized market to thrive as it's come under a lot of pressure recently from reduced prices and the persistence of illicit markets. Greater trust and transparency in legalized products will boost consumer confidence, ensure public safety, and strengthen the legal markets. The proposed reforms in the bill are common sense measures, Wertzer says, that will strengthen existing laws and give regulators the tools they need to stamp out fraud. These include requiring blind proficiency testing so that labs are tested on their accuracy within their normal course of business, requiring all past recalls to be publicly shared online for consumers to access easily, requiring in-person annual audits of laboratories. That this is something other states do that California has not yet done, allowing for the randomized testing of products available for retail sale to identify inconsistencies in testing. Prices for legal lane flower are determined by THC content. Companies lab shop to get the highest THC level possible. What's really happening is consumers are getting gouged for prices when they think they're getting a higher amount of THC than what is really in their product. Just how rampant is this? A few labs that were fed up with rampant potency inflation and they recently set out to determine how bad the issue was. Their sampling of over 150 randomly chosen flower products by several lab leaders found that 87% of the products illegally overstated their THC content, and several also contained harmful levels of pesticides. Furthermore, now this is where it gets crazy, over half of the samples were over 20% deviant of their labeled THC values, which is only twice over the legal permitted variance. California's state threshold for variance in THC reporting from what you get from the lab is plus or minus 10%. But companies often illegally surpass that margin of error. At least 5 class action lawsuits have been filed in recent months by consumers claiming damages for paying for artificially high THC levels. Some major and recognizable cannabis brands were called out. Some people are essentially getting less THC than what's on the label. And when that happens, trust will fall apart. This is Mathieu St. Germain stumbling through operating my mouth for the High Nine News on Friday. I have quite a bit to add to this, and I hope you all too. So I'm going to give the floor to you first, folks.
I have a question. I have a question on this for you, Matthew.
Sure.
So I understand that they don't want for people to be able to use inflated THC percentages. I understand that. But are they saying that the price that you're going to be allowed to charge is based off of what? I don't understand the price.
Yeah, that part I didn't really. That part I think was more implied.
It should read tax gouging is how it should read.
Bam! Totally agree. I totally agree, Jason.
Taxes.
I do agree with that. And I don't think
there's no profits really in selling weed like that, especially with 280E and all the different taxes that we have to pay on local and state levels is just erroneous.
I think that what the government
pricing it has to deal with the wholesale value. So,
yeah, they're trying to tie the high prices to the inflated THC.
And that's ridiculous too, though, because it's like look at the alcohol industry. The government doesn't tell alcohol manufacturers or bottlers or distillers what they can charge for their product. If you want to charge $1,000 for a shot of tequila, you can.
Let me tell you something. The average pound of a price of weed right now on the wholesale market, Gretchen, in California for indoor fire is around
Indoor
$1,000
booth.
to $1,200.
Okay.
Okay. That's your average flower cost. Yeah, it gets a little higher,
Yeah,
15,
got
16 a can, whatever. But so now you can't tell me that people that are selling product
Mhm.
that they're price gouging when those numbers are those numbers.
No. I'm not saying that they are. I'm saying this story is suggesting the price gouging is coming from if a product has a higher content that they're charging more for it.
If I'm
That's
a
what they're
business
saying.
operator and I believe that I can get a higher price for a product, I should be able to charge a higher
Correct.
price.
Well,
for that
Jason,
product.
Jason, you're the expert here. Tell us, do people
Just
come
like-
to
just
you?
like-
And no, but let
Okay.
me ask the question.
Go ahead.
Do you have distributors come to you and try and charge you more for strains with a higher content? Do they do that? Yes or no?
I have seen lots of menus that prices vary on different SKUs. Yes, 100%.
Would you say that it averages towards higher for a higher THC content?
Yeah, but at the same time, I've seen plenty of menus where all of the products are at the same price, regardless of THC. So I've seen both. And so what I'm saying is that let's kind of take this outside of cannabis and let's put this into an agricultural perspective. Okay.
But that's not what
But hold
we're
on.
talking
No,
about.
but it is exactly what we're talking about, and I'm going to show you why. Just
I
follow
can't
me
wait.
down this path.
Let's
Follow me
do
to the
this.
farmer's market, Gretchen. Okay.
I'm here.
Where I'm going to go and find some heirloom tomatoes
Okay.
from Farmer John.
Love
Okay.
it.
And Farmer John says, hey, you know what? I have this other small batch area that the tomatoes come out really nice, all the everything, right? But I'm going to charge an extra $2 a pound for these tomatoes, right? And he has two different products that he both cultivated, both produced as an agricultural product. And guess what?
Sure.
He is inflating the cost of these tomatoes when it all cost him all the same thing, regardless of where he's doing this at. And so my point is that we should allow businesses and operators to be able to sell their goods at whatever they believe the market will bear.
So you're for price gouging based on
agree,
THC
Jason.
content.
I mean, that's capitalism right there.
It's not price gouging. It is
I'm
following the
asking.
market.
It's not price gouging. No.
Yeah, I think that the use of the word price gouging is really just inaccurate in that article, and it's probably
It should be
just
tax gouging.
It's
Tax
just
gouging
that's
is
the fault of the writer, right? I don't think it's even that part of it is specifically targeted in the bill.
Well, quick question, Saint Germain. Is
Please.
this coming from the writer or is it coming from the bill, from the assemblyman?
That price gouging was just something the assemblyman said, but
Okay.
these guys really don't understand how the market works. And what I would say has probably happened is enough of his constituents have come to him and say, hey, we're having to buy by THC price, we're having to lab shop, and kind of filled out the basics, and then he might have substituted the idea. It's not that even that people are price gouging, it's a lot of dispensaries just have cutoff points of THC. Like if it's not 25 plus, I won't even buy it regardless of the
it will
price.
never hit our shelf.
Yeah.
People aren't buying
We
it.
can't
And
sell anything
this
that's not
continues to
5%
just
up or above.
this points at the immaturity of the market and the need to educate consumers, because
Mhm.
it's the same thing as if you were to go into a liquor store and you're only buying Schlitz malt liquor and fortified wine. You know, it's the same thing. And
I only
that's the
want
thing
everywhere.
that's the other thing I always point out is it's up to more people to stop terming everything and like getting fucked up and this whole
Sure.
like escape mechanism, and really everyone try to educate folks on getting high, getting activated, actually
The
using
experience.
cannabis to tune into your body and to the world around you and to up level your being. Once you're trying to up level yourself with cannabis, you realize it's an aesthetic, sensed based experience, like wine, like good food, like other things that are connoisseur or lifestyle categories. And so you're not just trying to buy it to get fucked up. If you are, then get like a high dose edible or a tincture. If you're buying flower, you're buying for the aesthetic experience. What is the color? What are the color variances? What does it look like? What does it smell like? Does it have big trichomes or little trichomes? There's all of these steps and stages that lead to and through the enjoyment of cannabis and into getting activated that need to be shown to the consumers, because I think a lot of people contact cannabis for a variety of reasons, but when you reflect back to them these things, and it turns these things that they might have not looked at in their own life, it turns these sense experiences on for them. So I think it's really up to all of us to continue to push the message of it's not about getting fucked up. It's not about escaping. And it's not about just buying the hardest hammer. And less taxes, as like Jason's saying, would allow people who are on the lower rungs of the economic ladder currently to really enjoy shopping for something more than THC percentage, because they're just trying to not get ripped off and get high at all for their money.
Now, St. Germain, I agree with you 100%. Totally. And I've heard from, and Dr. Talleyrand, I'm sure will back this up, that many folks are getting good medical benefits from lower contents, and people do not have to be completely ripped out of their mind. I'd like to talk a little more about another aspect of this bill. Is this bill suggesting they're going to go after the labs and not the brands then for mislabeling?
Yes, ma'am. That's why they're.
Do you think that's going to work?
I think it's necessary. Is it going to work 100%? No, nothing ever works 100%. People always find a way to skirt the laws, but I think it's 100% necessary because everybody's just getting so tired of, like, say this lighter is a bud, you know what I mean? And like people kind of trying to come and tell me like this much is THC. It's like, no, it's not. When I break it open, it's not all THC.
There's no way
inside the stem. Like, this is not happening. And so I think it really, for consumers to be educated and to trust dispensaries and to trust folks in the cannabis lane, these labs have to be held to account and be producing somewhat closer to one-to-one realities of what the contents of the terpenes and the cannabinoids in their product are, or where is there ever going to be trust?
Can I tell you what's going to end up happening? Can I tell you what's going to end up happening with a situation like that, Matthew?
Sure.
Is all of a sudden there's going to be a revolt of customers in stores because they're going to be like, you guys can't sell anything that's going to get me high enough, because the placebo effect is already kicked in their mind. And then you're going to have all the trappers that are just taking these old labels and recopying them and putting them on their bags, saying, hey, I got my weed tested, I'm on the streets, and my stuff's testing 45% THC. And then all of a sudden the streets are just going to cannibalize.
Bro, the streets don't care about numbers, bro. I haven't had a single person buy a bag of any size and be like, what's the COA? They literally like, let me see it, let me smell it, this is amazing, let's smoke it. Oh my God, it smokes amazing. I'll take them.
When people start asking for numbers on the streets,
nobody asks for
them.
Nobody asks for them.
It's inevitable.
They don't. The numbers are a pure fiction that was instituted by dispensary owners in California. And it was the majority of the dispensary owners in California who are only after money, don't give a fuck about weed, even if they smoke it. And they're the ones that did this. And that's why, like, for myself, until I went fully in the legal game and decided to ruin my whole life, I never messed with the dispensaries when I was growing weed, because they never had to, bro. And they all operated like pawn shop brokers. So really, it's still the fault of the dispensaries, and there are a few exceptions. Some dispensary owners are different. I have a couple friends who, if they're watching this, are pissed at me now. There are a couple that are different, including Mercy Wellness, right? Like Brandon from Mercy Wellness.
Big shout out to Brandon up in Mercy.
They're working with SC Labs, and all of their cannabis is clearly marked with terpene types, and they downregulate all of the THC information, and they print all of the terpene percentages in big numbers. And that is because the terpenes are so volatile. Terpene percentages are a much better, not the best, but a better indicator of quality. Right.
Random question.
It's up to dispensary owners, really. I just throw the gauntlet of any dispensary owner I see, take your THC numbers off of your menus and teach your bud tenders to actually educate your consumers.
Until you have consumers that stop paying top dollar for high THC levels, it's just going to keep on going. Period.
Okay, random question. How many, anybody have any idea how many labs are in California?
I'd say a couple hundred.
A lot?
The interweb.
Couple hundred. Yeah.
A couple hundred. Okay. And then who's going to regulate this? I mean, where is this army of people who are going to go out there and actually test this stuff?
Because the state is definitely not getting on them.
The issue is labeling inaccuracies, right? That's the issue. And it's a very simple answer. You have to create the appropriate SOP for sampling, because people are cherry picking certain buds, and that's why the prices are high. You've got to create an SOP for your standards. You can't use old standards, because the older standard you use, the higher your THC will report. This is a very simple fix. You just have to introduce it to the labs and say, this is your new SOP, and we're done with the inaccurate labeling. And by the way, variance of 10% is too tight. It's got to be 15%. But besides that, it's a simple fix. Yeah, food is 15%.
But it just hits at the ridiculousness. So I can get a flower that tests at 15%, and then I can label it 25%. Like, where Where does that
I mean,
have any correlation to reality then?
15% of the so let's
Fi-
see.
oh, you're saying 15%
flower.
of the test result is
Oh,
what
the
you're
total
saying,
number.
Dr. T. Yes.
Yeah, so 20%, which is most flowers are about 20% THC. If you're seeing 35% THC, that's a lie.
Yep.
I mean, we don't see that, and so the 35% is BS. And a variance of 15% means that it's anywhere between 23.5 and let me do my math and 16.5.
Oh,
That is
15% of that number, not an additional 15 percentage points.
correct. Correct.
Gotcha. Sorry.
Gretchen, the number is over 800 licensed cannabis
Good
laws in
luck,
California.
policing this.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly. Yeah. Good. I mean,
Traffic
well, not
lights.
to mention too, but Dr. T, in regards with the testing, I mean, there is no standardization that these labs have to calibrate their machines at as far as a statewide standardization at the same time. And doesn't that lead to this type of situation as well?
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, we told the DCC years ago what to do. I mean, it's a simple answer, but it's politics. People don't listen. They do what they want to do, and here we are.
Interesting. Oh boy.
Y'all know what time it is.
Hold on one second, real quick, Rico. I want to make sure that everybody tunes in on Monday because I have a breaking news exclusive story for everybody on Monday. Oh, yeah.
They make the news and we break
press.
the news. But thank you all out there for tuning in with us for yet another episode of High at 9 News. You can always catch us on weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our live audience members and online supporters tuning in and giving us feedback on the daily headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. Our vetted industry correspondent team from tuning in from all over the global community, bringing us much needed variety of perspective and adding your respected opinions to the conversation. To our production team, thank you, Cloud Media Partners, House of Fuego, and the wonderful Jaja Simone holding things down on the daily over there in Clubhouse, keeping our AV struggles to a minimum. We were pretty good today for the most part, I think so. And to our haters, as many of you all know, the NCAA tournament has started yesterday, and I hope you betted way more than you should have, and all your brackets have already busted. Go Cats. And finally, Cannabis Sativa L, even though they don't want to let us legally bank your value, we know that you're worth way more than man-made banks could ever account for. Thank you for giving us purpose. It's Friday, March 17th, 2023. The show is over, and you've been blessed with today's top industry headlines. We hope it was enough to put in your pipe to smoke, at least until Monday. Y'all know who it is. Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street, signing off. And before we do that, Mathieu St. Germain, you got the final word today. What you got for us, man?
Go to nature, breathe. The answers are inside all of us. Inside all of us is the wild heart of nature. Thanks, y'all. Happy Friday.
Love y'all.